everybody? Welcome back to the spinoff. Another episode, of course. Today, everybody, my guest, this guy is the production assistant on the Joel Mchale show, comedian, podcaster. I got Erick Hellwig with me here today. Erick, how the hell are you doing, man?
Oh, I'm so good. Thank you for having me, man. I haven't been the production assistant on the Joel Mchale show for 3 years, but besides that, it's I love the credit.
That's all right. It's still a notch on the post. So I mean that.
Sure. Yeah.
What was it? So I guess we'll roll right into that. I guess how was it working with Joel Mchale? The guy's hilarious from what I see on TV. I love him. I love his satire. Was he pretty much the same way in real life then?
He's a very nice guy. As I was putting on his mic and getting his water for 2 weeks, which is what I did. Here's the thing. Like, honestly, like that is not like, I wasn't creative in that role. Like I was just like literally my wife worked on the show. She was a writer's assistant. And that was right when we moved to LA, which was 3 years ago. So I just needed money. So she was like, I can get you a PA job on the show she was working on. So I hopped on for like their second season and hung out. But like, I wasn't like, I was in no way a part of the show. My wife was actually on the show and was contributing jokes. So wow. I should take that off my IMDb. It's the first thing that shows up under credits. I'm like, I was on AGT performing for 7 minutes. And somebody's like, how about that time you got gave someone a back massage? I'm like, yeah, okay, that's not really my career. That was like that'd be like me being like, we have Brian on the phone with us today. Brian, tell us about working at McDonald's when you were 15 years old.
Man, it was a blast. Let me tell you, it lasted for about the same amount of time, 2 weeks. So I hear you. Yeah, no, it was. So that was anyway. That specific gig on my IMDb was just like that was just a pay the bills thing for a little bit. But yeah, I don't know. It was cool. He is a very cool guy. Like I'll say that. Like, you know, my wife had much more experience working with him than I did. And yeah, he treats everybody very kindly. And that's like a little thing in Hollywood where somebody kind of plays like an asshole a lot. They're usually pretty cool. And anybody who's like really nice and always plays the good guy is usually a total piece of shit. And he's true to that. He's true to that. Yeah, you hear that about I forget the actor's name from Jay and Silent Bob from Clerks. He was the guy that played the complete asshole running the video store. He quit acting for quite a while because he was sick and tired of people thinking he was really an asshole. Yeah, was it the guy with long hair? Yes. I forget. Okay, yeah, I can't think of his name. Yeah, yep. Off the top of my head, I can't think of it. But yeah, it's things like that. Jay. It's Jay. It's Silent Bob and Jay. It's Jay. Yeah. Oh no! It wasn't Jay and Silent Bob in Clerks. It was the guy that ran the video store next to. Oh my God! I'm thinking of the wrong movie. Yeah, it's in Clerks. I mean, he was in Zack and Miri Makes a Porno, which is a hilarious movie. And my God, the guy quit acting for quite a long time because people thought he was really an asshole. You know, I remember reading a story about some guy who was like a very successful character actor in the 80s. And then at one point, he just walked away from acting completely and nobody heard from him for like 15 years. And then the only thing that has his name's Bronson something. I can't think of it. But then there's like a local story from upstate New York, and he's just fixing old log cabins now. And he's got like a big beard, and you look at him like, oh yeah, that's the guy from a bunch of movies I used to watch. And people are like, why did you? He's like, this is a million times better. I fix houses. I don't have to talk to people like you. You're the first person with a camera in front of me in like a decade. He just seems so happy. And whenever I see that, I'm like, I clearly picked the wrong thing to do with my life. Like, look at how, I mean, like when I'm like really in the throes of editing my podcast or, you know, sending out submission tapes to comedy festivals, whatever I'm doing to try to eke out a living in this hellhole of a business, I'm like, I just think about what if I just moved to Wichita and became a regional salesman? Like, what would that be like? I'd be like, I go to baseball games a bunch. Like I'd probably I'd become like I'd support the minor league team that's closest to me. Like I would just have like this whole, I'd have kids. Like you just like picture this lifescape opens up. I'm like, God damn, that seems amazing. But then, and then it's the other thing is then like I'll talk to my friends who are doing those things and they're like, you were the production assistant on Joel Mchale. I'm like, shit, we got to go through this again.
Yeah, exactly. So like, I think it's part of it's like the grass is always greener, but like it's hard to strike a balance. And if you are a balanced person, you always feel like you're never giving enough to either one, like there's no real solution to those feelings. Everything's a compromise in life, and you make it. And that's why I'm a childless Hollywood hack.
Well, hey, as married men, we know it's always give and take. So, and
I like that Deadpool thing behind you, by the way.
Oh, dude, my wife got me this for Christmas this last year. I could turn it on. It interacts with sensors. It talks. I mean,
oh, really?
It's hilarious, man.
Awesome.
Hop on Amazon, dude. You'll find it. It's worth the money. It really is.
Nice. Are you now? I know you're like your channel when you're not talking to mediocre comedians. You're talking about Nebraska football sports, right? Is that what's up?
Yeah, absolutely. The way this all started.
Are you in Nebraska?
Yes, sir. I'm smack dab in the middle of the map, pretty much, about as far east Nebraska as you can get.
What's the closest city to where you are?
Omaha.
Okay.
I'm pretty much right in the middle of Omaha and Lincoln.
Gotcha. I actually have a family friend that lives and owns a home in Omaha.
Oh, really? I swear everybody's got ties to Nebraska somehow.
Yeah. Well, you're the most, you're the most landlocked state of the 50 states. You have to go to 4 states away to get to water.
Yeah, it's, unless you find a beach around here, a man-made beach, and it's worth it, on a hot ass summer day, but no, it ain't no ocean or nothing like that. So yeah, you're right. This is about as landlocked as you can get on the map. Well,
and I think it's why every when newscasters are learning how to tell the news / lie, they try to sound like you. They go to speech lessons. They're like, talk like you're in Nebraska, because what happens is in your mind, the closer you are to water, the more you think and that's why like the most arrogant people live right on the water. So they're like, pretend like you're from a place where you're the most down to earth, literally surrounded by earth that you could possibly be. Pretend like you're that. And, here's a list of things we want you to say. So that really is, it's the definition of the heartland, right? Like I feel like it's the pulse from which everything else.
Yeah, it really
everything else breathes.
If you lit up just a little dot of Omaha on the map, it looks like it's the heart of the map, smack dab in the middle. It's kind of hilarious when they call it the heartland.
Yeah. Isn't that where did you watch the Super Bowl? I'm assuming you watched the Super Bowl.
Oh, absolutely.
Did you see the Bruce Springsteen commercial where he goes to a chapel and he's like, we got to come together?
I missed that one. I missed that commercial.
It's a stupid Jeep commercial.
Bruce he's riding around in Kansas in the winter with the top down in a Jeep. Oh, nobody does that here. Trust me. Nobody.
Well, I think he says there's some chapel in the middle of the country where people meet. I thought it was in Nebraska. It could have been somewhere else.
It could be.
But yeah, I don't know. Then he got a DUI like a week later.
Yeah, exactly. That's the only reason I heard of that commercial was about the DUI afterwards.
The DUI is the funniest thing. And then he got the DUI, and then 2 days later, like an ad on my Spotify popped up, and it was like a podcast with Bruce Springsteen and Barack Obama. And I was like, the title of this should be Bruce, Give Me the Keys.
So you brought it up that you're doing a podcast as well called Bring in the Backups.
Yes.
Now you were, I listened to your most recent episode, which you just uploaded, I believe 3 days ago. And you were talking about how 2 episodes ago, you had a gentleman on that was trying to teach you how to meditate. You flat out said that shit ain't working.
I did. And, but here's the thing. I still want to talk about the Joel Mchale show and what he wants on his salad. So let's talk about that one. Okay.
Is it a Niçoise salad? What is he looking for?
He likes a chef's salad with the gorgonzola on the side.
It must be on the side.
I'm making that up. No. I'd rather talk about my podcast, of course. It's Brendan Saglow, who's a very funny comedian. If you look him up on Spotify, he has a new album out that's hilarious. And I had known him in passing, I would say, in New York. I lived in New York for 11 years, and that's where I started doing comedy. So I had him on the show, and I don't know if I'm doing my podcast right. Like, I advertise it as backup quarterbacks, but then I get my comic friends on and we talk for an hour and never mention sports.
I do the same thing here. Don't feel bad.
Yeah, it's all. It really is like people are listening because they like you or they like me, and like I'll talk about sports as much as I want to, or in my case, backup quarterbacks. But when I had him on, usually when comics come on, my voice did a weird thing. We talk a lot about comedy, which can get a little old. That's why like every TV show that's like about a comic struggling in New York is like, can you write something else? And Brendan, right from the start, was like, yeah, man, we don't have to talk about any of that shit. Honestly, like, I'm working on my meditation. And I was like, I would love to talk about this because every therapist I've had has been like, you need to meditate. And I've tried it, and I've done it a handful of times. Every time I do it, I cry because it's very challenging to be with your own thoughts.
Yes.
And it feels like such a mountain to just, it is a mountain to walk up, but you have to take the first steps. So
almost don't realize how much baggage you're carrying yourself until you start to unload it.
Yeah, well, because we're all products of our environment. You know, I grew up in a military family. My dad was a very tough guy, so naturally, I think meditation is gay, as is anything else that takes care of your soul or nurtures your
anything where feelings are on the outside.
Of course, yeah. So what I do is I live my life. What I've been doing is living my life as stressed as I could possibly be. And then I do something embarrassing, or my anger gets the best of me, and I've almost gotten in fights with people walking my dog. I put a hole in the ceiling or in the wall with my fist a couple weeks ago. My wife was not in the house, so this was not a punching. That's good. It's not a punching the wall 2 inches above somebody's head situation. But like just embarrassing things like that, and then I'll be like, I'll go outside and meditate and just weep. I'll just cry I'll let it all out. So that's basically what it is what used to be, once every 3 or 4 months when I would cry in the shower, sobbing to myself over how difficult life is. I was kind of substituting that in for meditation for a little bit. And now I'm just kind of coming to the place since that podcast of I'm trying to meditate a few times a week, even when I'm not angsty, as a reminder of being present and being in the moment. And I can see why people think it's life-changing to do that, because it's so dumb to just think of your breath that much and how, the breath starts, breath ends. In a way, it's like there's a death happening every 3 seconds, just if you think about each individual breath as it comes in and out. And that is what being present means. It's like, it's really just having a peaceful tranquility about the death surrounding you. And when you do that, you can enjoy the nicer moments in life because you really feel present in them. You see the moments passing as they pass. So it's fascinating. Like I like anything, I'm sure if you can go too far and become like I can go move to Tibet and like never have sex again and like really get into it. But those people are losers.
You could become the next Doctor Strange. Who knows?
Yeah, sure. I could also. Which one was he? Well, I checked out of the Marvel stuff, but was he the Benedict Cumberbatch one?
Yes.
Okay. I think I saw the final movies, like now the stones are on somebody's hand. I saw that, and I didn't understand because I didn't watch the individual ones. So when like there's that part in spoiler alert for Avengers.
Oh yeah. Now, if anybody needs spoilers for that movie,
now you got it. Yeah. So it came out years ago, but like there's the part where like they're losing to Thanos, and then like the little orange circle comes in.
Yep.
And then like everybody walks through, and the audience goes, "Oh
yeah, they lose their shit."
Yeah, I was watching and I was going, "What the fuck is happening right now? What are these circles? What is happening? This doesn't make any sense." It's like the movies are. I mean, maybe I'm sure there's YouTube channels dedicated to shitting on Marvel and DC or whatever, but it's very dependent on, you have to watch everything. Like nothing, I feel like the Marvel movies don't stand alone, but like me and my wife are watching in a couple sittings, we're going to watch the Justice League one now just because everybody's been talking about it.
I'm trying to get through it myself.
Yeah, I'm like, I feel like
DC, 4-hour movie.
It's a long movie.
Very
long movie. But the one thing I was going to say is like with the DC movies, I feel like they stand alone better. Like, because I don't watch all of them, but when I do watch one, I'm like, oh, I can kind of get what's going on. It's not totally dependent on me being immersed in the canon of whatever.
Yeah.
And I like that because I'm definitely more of a whatever. Like I'll just watch something when it's in front of me, but I'm not like, I got to go see Ant-Man 3. Like I don't know what Ant-Man does. I know he probably becomes an ant.
Pretty close.
And then like in the movie, he was becoming small.
Yeah, pretty much. He can be microcosmically small, and he can be as big as King Kong. It doesn't make any sense why to call him Ant-Man. But at the same time, I'm more of a Marvel fan than DC anyway. But
yeah,
I mean, to each his own. So
sure.
It is what it is. And yeah, I like the Marvel universe a little bit more, but that Snyder cut of Justice League, man, when I saw it was 4 hours long, I was like, holy shit, I have never sat through a movie that long. So this is going to be a couple sittings, and I'm only about halfway through. So,
well, I like that they divided into parts. So we're just doing like 2 parts, and that's how we've been doing it. And we still haven't finished it. So I don't know what happens at the end. I never watched the original. The thing I liked about it, I love speaking about this thing I have no fucking idea about, but
same here.
I'm an expert. But like, I just thought it was very cool that an original director had it. I think he left or they took it away from him. Something happened, but then like another dude came in and finished it. And then that was the first movie that I didn't care about and never saw. And then they went, the fan, like I think the original director was like releasing stuff, like little scenes of like, this is what I would have done with it. This is what I was thinking. And then fans were like, holy shit, do that. And then Warner Brothers gave him the movie back.
Yep.
And like, that's just one of those Hollywood stories. There's so few Hollywood stories where like in the end, the creative person won. The creative person there's another story about, have you ever seen A Bronx Tale?
No, I haven't yet. No.
Okay, so that's a movie with Chaz Palminteri, who wrote it, and it's about his life. And he wanted to play the guy, the gangster, and he would go sell it to people, and they'd be like, we'll take it, but you're out. We don't want you in it. And he was like, no, it's my story. I'm in it. So he was having to say no to all these offers. Nobody would put him in the movie. And he talks about it on a podcast where he's like, yeah, man, I just like, I was like, am I doing the wrong thing? Maybe I should just like sell out and take myself out. I mean, it's my story. I always pictured myself playing it. Mm-hmm. And then Robert De Niro was like, yeah, let's do it. I'll produce. I'll play the cab driver. You play the gangster. And it's like, that just doesn't happen that often. So that's the whole reason we're watching is I'm just like, oh, I want to feel a part of a cool Hollywood story where somebody got to do it the exact way they wanted. And like, the industry caved to the art. That doesn't happen. Honestly, Deadpool is another example of that.
Yes.
Ryan Reynolds was like, I loved it.
Leak the footage.
Yeah, exactly. Like that's the kind of stuff where I'm like, if there's a good story behind it, if there's a lesson behind it, I'll watch your movie.
Absolutely.
Or if it's something like Avengers Endgame and I'm like, I'm going to not know what the fuck is going on unless I watch this movie. I won't get anything that people reference for the next 2 years.
I'd say Ryan Reynolds did it right with Deadpool, leaking that test footage, or somebody leaked it, somebody whatever, and it the first rated R movie for Marvel, and look what it did. It sprung everything. Logan was rated R, which was an amazing movie. Did not like the fucking ending though, because I'm a huge Wolverine fan. So sons of bitches of Marvel, I swear.
Oh, did he die? I didn't see.
Yes, they kill off the wrong characters sometimes. Hey, spoiler alert for anybody that ain't seen Logan.
They're fine. They're fine.
They should make it through, I hope.
Toughen up your audience. Don't coddle these assholes.
I try. I really do, but sometimes people don't listen, Eric. I try though.
Do you find yourself, I mean, what's your relationship with your audience? Like how often do you interact with them? I'm curious.
As much as possible. I'll switch between Twitter and Facebook. I mean, if somebody
comments on a video or a post, I try as fast as possible to either comment back or like it, interact in some way so they know I'm paying attention and I'm not just there to sell my own shit and to be damned with whoever's watching or listening.
Yeah. That's interesting. Yeah.
It's very hard to do.
Like I try to make it so that people can reach out to me for the show. But what I've started doing lately is just, it sounds so, feel so thirsty, but I'll just like, if I know somebody listens to the show, I'll just tweet them or I'll DM them and I'll just go like, hey, what'd you think?
Yep.
Like that's the way I'm getting feedback now is I'm just like actively reaching out to the people I know listen. And they're like, oh yeah, it's good. But like nobody, this is another thing. Like my mom is a big fan of my work. Biggest fan I've got.
Should be.
She should be. Yeah. Well, I wouldn't even say it should be. She doesn't have to be. She raised me. I'd be okay if she was done with me, but she's not. She likes the comedy. And I have like a thing on my website it's a Patreon waiting list where I'm like, I will start a Patreon if 20 people email me and say, I'll pay $5 a month for extra shit. Because I don't want to have, if I have a Patreon with 7 people on it, it just feels like I'm advertising my parents giving me an allowance. Like, it needs to be at least 20 people so it feels like there's a goddamn support. There's people that want to see this.
That's true.
So I started this thing like a couple weeks ago. There's 3 people on it. And, and my mom's not, it's good. Yeah. It's 3 people that have been like, dude, when you started, let me know. I'll pay $5 a month. And my mom is not one of them. And she listens to the podcast and she goes, I know she listens to it. She calls me when it comes out. And the next time I talk to her, I'm like, yeah, Mom, you didn't email me. I assumed you would have wanted to be on the Patreon thing. And she goes, oh yeah, you need to make it clickable on your website. Like you just put your email address, but if I can't click it, what do I do? I'm like, well, you just type it into the browser. But even my own mother was like, I'm not going to type in his email address. Make it clickable, asshole. Like that's my mom. So I'm like, okay, that's the process of like, I don't know about you, but for me, making the podcast is fun. Like I like doing it. I do comedy bits. I get to talk to my friends. I get to talk about shitty backup quarterbacks and pretend like they should have been great. It's hilarious. The hard part is making everything like branded and then making everything one click away for people. Like that's the part that I'm not an expert in. None of my friends that have podcasts are experts and we're all figuring that part out.
Yep.
So I don't know. I've like my fantasy, it used to be like sex stuff. Now it's just hiring someone to fucking build me a better website.
Hey, that's a sign of us getting older is what it is. Cause I'm starting to have those same fantasies. I'm right there with you. I'd much rather somebody else did the editing shit and all that, put up the backdrop and all this crap. It's tiring at times, but at the same time, I get exactly what you're saying about making things clickable, making yourself more presentable, easier to find. I'm doing the same thing on YouTube right now and they're dicking me around, and it's being able to change my channel name to the spinoff instead of my personal name. And they're taking their sweet ass time putting that into the algorithm. It's just easier for people to search the show's name rather than my own name. My name's not easy to spell, so it's much easier to find the show's name.
I noticed that too. When you Google me, it's still like my YouTube page, like when you search it, it goes, but could I sound more narcissistic being like, when I'm Googling myself every couple days, but when I Google myself 8 times a day, my YouTube page shows up as it's youtube.com/Herschel Comedy Vids. And Herschel is like a shitty improv team I was on 10 years ago when I first moved to New York. And I think I'd like originally had that as my YouTube name. And then I changed it to Erick Hellwig like a year later. But I haven't tried to get subscribers on my YouTube until I started this podcast. So it still shows up as that improv thing from like literally 2011 when I started the fucking account. And I don't know, like my experience with reaching out to social media companies, like I had my Twitter hacked recently.
Oh shit.
Yeah, I got it back, but no, but you don't talk to anybody. Like, it's just like it feels like you're just taking your concern, writing it on a piece of paper, tying it to a rock, and hurling it off the cliffs of oblivion into nothing. Like, you're just like, all right, well, I said something that no one will ever read.
Yeah.
Please give me my followers back. Nothingness, please. Great nothingness. Why is there not, like, it's a huge company. Why can't you go, you pick up your phone and go beep, 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 boop. Hello, twitter.com. How can I help you?
Yeah.
Someone stole my shit. Like, why isn't that a thing?
Dude, with cable companies nowadays, you can text them at 1, 2 in the morning and have a chat if you're having issues with a modem or your cable box or something. So yeah, why can't Twitter, Facebook do that type of shit? Even YouTube. YouTube's really getting on my damn nerves, but well, we need them.
It feels like such an obvious thing. Like, we have technology we always just assume is making us better, but I don't know how we got better by not having people answer the phone when you have an issue. I don't know why we think that's an improvement. It's not. What it is it's more money for the people at the very top to not have to employ people. And then we at the bottom, the serfs, go, oh yeah, no, that's probably good for the economy and we have more time for our families. It's like, no, it's fucking jobs and it's something that's wrong. If I have to go through an automated person, if I need to get medicine or something and they're like, go talk to our automated friend, I just don't get the medicine. I don't do it. I'm like, I can't. If you won't let a person talk to me, I'll just die of whatever I have. I'd rather die than get thyroid medicine from a fucking robot. That's how I feel. Put a person on. I'm a human being. I remember when I was dating my wife. My wife's younger than me by 6 years, which is enough to be like, she grew up just texting people.
Yeah.
And I grew up calling people. So when we were dating, I would call her and she'd be like, hello? I'd be like, hi, me, the guy you're dating. I just wanted to say hi. She's like, it's so weird. I'm like, it's not weird. You're weird. You're weird for doing this.
Yes.
I don't want to stare in my phone for 8 hours a day. It's like, I don't think this stuff is making us better. I think it's making us dumber. And it's annoying when I see people who are like being like taken out of jobs, or like my friends that like have nothing to do, have no money, and they're like, oh man, I got this new thing on my iPhone. It's like, fucking fight back, dude. Fight back. They're not on your side. They're not trying to make your life better. Anyway, here's my rant.
Oh man, and see, that's what I loved about listening to your podcast, man. When you go off, you fucking go off, and it's great to hear. It most of the time it's just about some of the littlest shit. Like when you were on your last episode, you were talking about how you never get a quarterback on your show.
No, these assholes won't write me back.
And you
it is annoying.
Bring in the backups, but yet you've never managed to get a backup quarterback on.
Yeah. Yes. Well, it's part of it's because I don't email them in time. I usually message them like an hour before I record, and I'm like, Charlie Batch, are you free? So they're like, no, I run a charity or I have a job on TV. I can't just do your shitty podcast. I talked to some buddies. They have a show, Sports and Shit. Sports, the letter N shit. It's really funny with my buddies Maddie and Ty. And they get like real guests. Like they had me on recently, and I was like, we were talking about, oh yeah, I like Phillies. I was like, the 93 Phillies was the team that got me into sports when I was 8. And they go, oh, we had Lenny Dykstra on the show recently. I'm like, what?
Holy shit.
You got Lenny Dykstra? Lenny Dykstra's an insane person. But I'm like, how the fuck did you get Lenny Dykstra? And they go, oh, well, we email like 300 people, and then 5 of them get back, and we say, can you come on our show for 10 or 15 minutes? And those 5 people end up being our guests for a month. And I'm like, okay, well, then that's the way to do it, is you said this huge swath of emails. And, you know, if 2% of people get back to you, that means you need to ask 50 people a week.
Pretty much.
I don't do that. I ask my shitty comedy friends who will do anything to get on a podcast, even if they're like way more successful than me. They're like, ooh, a chance to talk, I'll do it. So I've literally never had a comedian say no to doing my show. They're like, I'll wake up at 3 a.m. to do it. So I've just been having my comedians on because I I put so much work into the show in other ways.
Mm-hmm.
I don't really care to speak to I don't care that much to get the backup on. So if I'm honest, I know on the show I was like, fuck these backups. They're assholes. I'd be much more generous to them if they would just come on my show. I'll like actually pretend like they had a chance to be good. But the truth is that I'm not putting in, like so many things in life. I can complain about them, but really it's me. As I'm recording the show, I'm remembering, oh, fuck, I forgot to ask Cleo Lemon if he was free. Does he have a Twitter? Hey, Cleo. I don't see ... right away. I'm like, fuck him.
Yeah. I do the same thing. That's pretty much how I find everybody for the shows. I'll hop on either Twitter or Facebook. And if I can message them privately, I will. Otherwise, I'll throw out feelers publicly on there. I mean, it to me, it doesn't matter who you are. If you're an up and coming comic, if you're an unknown comic, or it doesn't matter what walk of life you come from. If I read something about you that interests me, or I see something like what you had that makes me laugh out loud just by hearing or reading it, I want you on the show. And that's the thing. I'm not going to be picky about it because look at me. There's a small time fucking production from Bodunk fucking Nebraska. So,
but everybody, one thing I like is that, I'm in Hollywood, California right now.
Yeah.
I'm in the epicenter of horseshit. And the truth is we're all like, you run into this as a comic a lot where people have a real like arrogance about being a comedian, where they're like, they'll watch an open micer bombing and they're like, this guy's jokes suck. This guy's going to be gone in a week, blah, blah, blah. And like, you can tell they just don't view them as comedians yet.
Yeah.
And for me, I'm like, the second you start doing it, you're it. Like,
yeah.
When I was like that when I was a stand-up. I was like, I had a show and I'd be like, I want to get new time stand-ups on because they actually fucking invite people. They haven't burned all their bridges with their friends yet with a million show invites. So I'll actually have an audience here. And they're nice. Like, they're like, thank you so much. They like ask for feedback on their jokes. Like, I've made some really good friends having just people that are starting out on my show before. And so, as I've gotten, I've been doing stand-up now for 7 years, really, and then improv and other comedy before that. As you get deeper into it, you're like, you start doing better shows. And I'm now around those newer comics a lot less. And even before the pandemic, that was the case. Like, I was on just a better quality of show where there weren't new comics anymore. And I missed it. I almost missed it a little bit because I wasn't going to go back to do open mics. But it's like, whatever. It's like you grow in your career. As soon as I started my podcast, I'm like, okay, now I'm one of the new guys again. Just like I was when I was starting stand-up 7 years ago. We're all in the same boat together. And it's like, I can tell that it bothers some people to be like, I'm not going to go on that pod. It's like, I go on everybody's podcast. I'd like my audience to be yours. I'd like your audience to be mine.
Yep.
Like, to me, we're all in the same boat. And like, if podcasting can be a little bit nicer than the stand-up community is, then great. Like I can't wait to do stand-up again, but I'm enjoying the process of doing this, like doing people's shows. Like, I'm talking to you in Nebraska. I did a podcast with somebody in Wisconsin the other day. It's like people have different accents and stuff.
Oh yeah.
Like the Boston podcast I did, they're like, I can't do a Boston accent, but however they make their stupid noises. I'm like, this is so cool. Like, I'm like doing like a tour of America from my fucking living room. And like, everybody likes sports. And it's like, there's a way to frame it in your mind where you're like, I think people get bummed because they're not seeing the growth they want on their show. But like, this is, to me, has kept me sane during COVID to get to do stuff like this once or twice a week. Like, I love it.
Now, I was going to ask you too, with you doing your YouTube videos, my biggest frustration is when you see the so much different fluctuation in the views. Like one week I'll have there was one I had like 180 views. The next week it was like 13. I'm like, what the hell? What was the difference? The guests were both former Nebraska players. What the hell was the difference? I didn't understand it. So I guess Do you find the same frustration when you just see the fluctuation like that?
No, I've actually been very lucky to have consistently nobody watch my YouTube videos. So there's been zero fluctuation. It's been 100%. Look, I also don't, you have video.
Yeah.
Like I feel like for YouTube, you need video. I put my podcast on my YouTube for like SEO purposes, like search engine optimization. I don't know how many people are sitting there like making dinner, listening to an audio of me talking for an hour and a half with just like a picture of Coy Detmer on their YouTube. I don't know. But here's the thing that's crazy is that I say that, and then I'll get comments on some of the videos being like, and they're talking about something that happened an hour and 10 minutes in. I'm like, I guess some people are listening. Like, I'm like, my videos get like, I don't know, like if something's up for 3 months, it'll get to like 100, 150 views.
Yeah.
But it grows very, like, it's like 3 or 4 people listening a day.
Yeah.
To each episode. And what I'm trying to do with my show is, and maybe this is helpful for you to hear, I don't know, but my show's extremely evergreen. It's like the titles are Coy Detmer with this comedian. And I'm intentionally doing that because, you know, that's why I don't have like a podcast about Tom Brady, who is technically a backup, because there's a million fucking episodes of Tom Brady shit.
Yeah.
But literally nothing about Coy Detmer, nothing about Cleo Lemon, nothing about Sage Rosenfels. So I'm like, if I can just corner this one part of the internet where like, how many people a day go, who was that shitty quarterback on the Texans that got helicopter spun in that game against the, what do we call that? The Rosencopter. Who was that? What was that guy's name? Sage Rosenfels. Oh. If they type in Sage Rosenfels, I'm the only motherfucker being like, I have an hour on Sage Rosenfels. So I think that like, I'm trying to build it like that. Like I've picked such a niche that you can't help but find me if you're looking for that thing. And
the fact that you bring up Coy Detmer is hilarious because as a Husker fan, I remember that son of a bitch at Colorado. So
oh my God.
I hated him. Hated that guy.
He has such an underrated college career.
Yes. The guy was tough as nails. I'll give him that.
Fuck yes, he was, dude. Do you know anything about when he was in the NFL with the Eagles? Do you remember any of his games?
I never followed him then.
It's
I
so
just
funny
watched him get his ass whooped in Lincoln a couple times.
Okay, yeah. Fuck you. But he's my favorite player. Don't talk about Coy like that. But here's he was a very tough guy, and I'm an Eagles fan. So when I started my podcast, this is a true story. I was a comedian, obviously before the pandemic, and then like that hit, and I was like jerking off 85 times before noon for about a month.
That's
I gotta do something else with my life, and so I had an idea for a podcast, and I was talking with a buddy about it. Rob Stern, who ended up being on my show later. And I'm like, I don't know what to do a podcast on. I have these ideas, but they're just like ideas. I'm not like super passionate. He's like, well, he's like, once you get into podcasting, it takes up so much of your life. It has to be something that you love or you will quit. Even if it's successful, you will quit. So like, what are you doing like right now? Like, or before I called, like, what were you doing? I was like, I looked at my YouTube. I was watching, somebody had every touchdown Coy Detmer has ever thrown. It was like, and the video is like 2 minutes long because there's 8 total in the NFL. I was watching that. And that's what I always do is I go back and I'll watch like entire games from 1990 where like the 2-10 Bengals play the 1-9 Oilers or something. And I'm like, ooh, this is so exciting. Like some of these receivers clearly never played in the NFL again. Like that's just the way I kill time. So I was like, oh, that should be the show. And because I'm an Eagles fan and Coy Detmer was the shitty backup quarterback when I was first watching football games, I was like, I have to do a full episode. Like he's got to be my first one. And so, and in the beginning, so for that first episode, that Coy Detmer episode, it's so researched. I know everything about him. The YouTube video, I went through and found highlights from games. Like he had this touchdown celebration he did. So I like clipped it from different places and I made it like a tribute. It's like a 45-minute tribute to Coy Detmer and it's a great YouTube watch. it's like I spent like a month on it. And I was like, this is going to be my podcast. It's going to be backup quarterbacks. And then by the third episode, I was just throwing up a photo of the guy and being like, just reading his Wikipedia page. Like there's I did zero research after the first one. But I always tell people, if you're going to go to my YouTube page, watch the Coy Detmer one. It's actually like there's images and video coming up. The rest of it is just my dumb face with like a comic here and the quarterback here. And it's me complaining about having celiac disease. Like I give up after episode 1. But like he really was the inspiration to do the podcast. If I'm honest, it was my love of this one guy. And then I was like, well, if I like him, there's all these other guys that are like just like him that never really got a chance. That can be the underlying theme for the show.
And I hear you about doing the research thing. I just, when I started doing the videos here, my God, I drove myself nuts trying to research every guest and trying to find deep cuts on them. And my wife finally said, you're stressing yourself out doing this. You're a very good person and very easy to talk to. Just go into it as a conversation. So I took her advice, just wrote down some focal points and figured to hell with it. I'm going to just go into it cold, as brainless as I possibly can, for lack of a better term. And I started that last week with Gentleman Conan Comedian, and it went fantastic. And it's exactly what I'm doing here. And man, this is turning out to be just like I'm sitting in a fucking living room talking to a buddy. So I love this.
It's fun, man. And it's, I'm with you. That's how I do my show too. It can get you into trouble. Like I've gotten into, I mean,
well, look, I said you worked at the Joel Mchale show.
That's what I was saying. Like, yeah, like if you'd scrolled 3 things down, you would have seen I was on America's Got Talent, which was a way bigger thing.
Oh, we're going to talk about that. We're going to talk about that.
Okay, cool. No, if you had Googled production assistant, you would be like, I'm not going to ask him about that. That's clearly he was like cleaning microphone cases while other people worked. But it's fine. Because mine is so much worse, dude. I would pick a quarterback. So I picked Eric Kramer for an episode.
Oh, wow.
And because I want to do a Lions episode. I had some people from Detroit being like, do a Lion. And so I picked the one. He was a backup that won their last playoff game in 93 against the Cowboys. And so I was like, that's the guy. And so I do the episode. I did the interview before I got like a Detroit comedian that could remember the game. We talked about it. And then I recorded the first part of the podcast where I kind of do like my comedy bits and do a deep dive on the quarterback. And I literally didn't research Eric Kramer until I'm on the podcast. I'm on the podcast and I'm looking at his Wikipedia page and I see that his son died of like a drug overdose 10 years ago. He got super depressed, probably has CTE, shot himself in the head, survived. Then he got married to this woman who was extorting money from him, Me Too'd him successfully, took all his money, and then he was able to present evidence that un-Me Too'd himself and like She Too'd her, and then she went to jail, and she remains in jail for elderly abuse of Eric Kramer. And so I'm doing my podcast. I'm like, look at this guy, 6 touchdowns in 91. He sucks. Son died of I start reading this stuff. I'm like, oh my God, why did I pick this guy for my podcast? There was like, comedically, I couldn't have walked into, it was like dropping myself in the middle of a comedic desert and being like, well, I still have 30 more minutes on the podcast. This is the most depressing shit I've ever read, ever.
Your Bill Burr in Philadelphia is what it is.
Yeah, but with only my own thoughts, basically. God. Yeah, it was insane. Like, yeah, I spent the rest of the episode like Googling gunshot head wound survivors.
Oh shit!
And just being like, and like I watched an interview with him afterwards, and I'm like, he's talking and he's functional, like he looks fine, but I'm like looking for like, where did the bullet go? Like, did he grow his hair back over? Like, just crazy shit, man. So like, yeah, I guess what I'm saying is like, there's got to be, for me at least, I got to find the healthy balance between, it's not going to be a Coy Detmer deep dive. I've been waiting 20 years to get the word out on this guy, but I should probably, just see if someone's spent any time with a gun under a bridge before I pick him for my podcast, right?
Oh man. Yeah. I would take it was just a little bit more reading and you could have just stopped right where you were and saved all that. All right, we talked about your stint on AGT. You did a one-man show where you were deaf and you're doing stand-up comedy. I did actually watch the one-man show in its full length that you put on YouTube.
Oh, really?
Dude, it's hilarious. I don't care what anybody says. The way you do the voice, the way you're so stoic with your look, it's fucking funny. I don't understand. And your AGT, all right, look, you did get 4 X's. Who gives a shit about that? What I gave a shit about watching that whole audition was Howie Mandel was into it, and he was on your side the whole time. The only reason he X'd you was the cat joke at the end. He must be a cat lover. So
no, he pussed out. No, he definitely
he had to have.
He liked it. I mean, look, so what you see on, if anybody, by the way, I'll shameless plug, go to youtube.com/Erick Hellwig and you can see the death portion of AGT in full. They gave me a full commercial break. It went from break to break, just me.
It's about 9 minutes long or so.
Yeah, it's something like that. Yeah. I cut out the judge part on like my video, but like if you just Google death on AGT,
they got the whole clip.
You'll find clips of it too. But fuck that, support me. Go to my page and watch it on my page. youtube.com/Erick Hellwig. You can see all of it. But no, so like in real life, that's not what happened on stage. Like in real life, the character I keep saying but Death was doing pretty good for about 2 minutes. And then I have if you saw the one-man show, which is how I got AGTs, a producer for AGTs just watched the one-man show that was online. I have a joke about killing everybody's grandparents that I usually open with. And I did it like halfway through my AGT set. And the audience turned on itself. They laughed, and then the people who didn't laugh got so mad, I feel like, at the people who did, that they started booing, but I think they were halfway booing themselves. Oh. And so once that happened, that was actually the first X. And then they came after that in succession. But the thing you're seeing on TV is like some of the jokes that I'm telling there are actually got laughs in real life. They just cut it to look like it got X'd right away.
I always wondered about that.
Yeah, so it's not, I mean, this is the thing about that. People go, oh, are you pissed that they didn't show? I'm like, no, because it's not my stand-up.
That's right.
If it was me, Erick Hellwig, doing my jokes and they did that, I'd be fucking furious. And I probably would never do a show like that with my own stand-up. But with this death character, the whole creation of the character years ago with my co-creator, Chris Aurelio, who came up with the show with me, and we shot a pilot for Death too, was that Death would try things and fail. That was what we did live. Is like Death would come out and read Shakespeare. Death would come out and rollerblade. Death would come out and do a scene from The Notebook. Death would try stand-up. Like, it's all a thing that, like, he comes out and he's bad at an art form, but people feel for him because they can see that he's obviously tortured. Like, that's the idea of it. And it's supposed to be awkward and weird. So,
you do a perfect job with that. And that's what makes it great.
And it's fun. And like when you watch the one man show, again, youtube.com/Erick Hellwig, check it out.
Plug.
You see that, like in the end, the jokes aren't great, but the audience is won over because it's the earnestness of it that they appreciate. And that's what used to happen in the live show too. So I knew going on to AGT, they're going to cut this. They're going to cut this however they need to make a TV show. That's what it's going to be. If they need him to win, he'll win. If they need him to lose, he'll lose.
Yep.
And what I told myself was, if I just stay in character, it's a win. If I'm Death the whole time, as long as they don't catch like me, Eric, taking a dump in death makeup, being like, I hope I do good, it's fine. Like, that would be the real embarrassment, is that if he's not there the whole time, if it's not always Death on camera, when they cut to him, it's him. And in that way, I thought the show took care of me really well. And what they ended up cutting was probably more interesting, maybe more interesting than watching him crush for a little bit and then turn the audience on itself. And then it goes south and the judge, and like one of the judges kind of likes it, but is like, no, like even their responses on the show where they're like, they're saying stuff to me. Like some of it isn't stuff they said to me. Like they literally just cut a story together.
Wow.
With footage they have. So I did get 4 X's. But yeah, it wasn't, it didn't happen in like, in the show, it happens in like 40 seconds.
Yeah.
In real life, I was on stage for like almost 10 minutes.
Oh my God.
So yeah, it's a show. I'm very happy with the cut they gave me, and truthfully, like couldn't have asked for more. I mean, I have a Instagram page, and Instagram or Twitter, if people want to follow the character, it's Death Lives TV. I got a ton of followers from it, and like people, it was good. Like people were like mad that he, like if you go on the YouTube comments of it and you watch, like especially on the video that like NBC did or whatever, people are like, this guy sucks. No, this guy's great. Fuck you. Like, fighting in the comments. I'm like, this is all I could have ever dreamed. This is better.
They're fighting over you.
Yes, creatively. Here's the thing. Creatively, it's better that he lost than if he'd even won and gone on to the next round. It's better that he lost. And the truth is like, I might go, if I went back on the show, which is a possibility.
Yes.
The truth is I think I would have been back on the show, but I just didn't want to do like the virtual version of it that they're doing now. Like Death needs people there.
Yep.
But if I went back, I would just do a different thing. Like now he's singing. Now he's doing flamenco dancing. Whatever it is, it would be what I did with the character for years in New York, which is people watch him fail and feel for him, and that motivates them to react however they react. That's the most fun thing about the character was watching people laugh at different points in jokes. Like when you watch the one-man show, like some people will just start laughing during the setup.
Yeah.
Because it's like something that I say strikes them. It's more important that like, I remember when we were selling the show.
It's like they're anticipating the punchline almost.
Yeah. Well, and what it is like they're looking at death and they're thinking about people that have died in their life, and like it's giving them feelings. And so something's happening beyond the shitty joke. Yeah. That's everybody has an individual relationship with the performance as it's happening. And like, I remember when we were selling the show, I was like, well, I have to play death. And they're like, yeah, they're going to want a famous person to play death. And I was like, no. It's not just that I want to be death. It's like, I felt like the Chaz Palminteri and Bronx Tale story. I'm like, no, it has to be me because nobody knows who I am.
That's right.
Like if it was Will Ferrell as death, you'd be like, aha, Will Ferrell. It needs to be death. It needs to be a guy you've never seen that knows the character, that makes you think about people dead in your life or your own impending death. Like that's the idea. And then it doesn't, I'm like, once you see me, everything else that happens is up to you. Like it's through your lens at that point. And that's kind of the way that I viewed the AGT thing the whole time, was as long as I'm the character, it's a win no matter what. And then that ended up coming to it. Like I said, it ended up better than I could have imagined with the show. Yeah.
You didn't compromise yourself or the integrity of the character to bend to anything they wanted. So definitely kudos to you for fucking sticking to your guns.
There was a moment, I will say this. There was a moment, like it was probably like the hour leading up to, because like the day you're there, they're like, okay, you're on in 5 hours. You're on in 4 hours. You're on in 20 minutes. Okay, it's going to be another hour. But then you're on. Like you're literally just moving closer to the stage while you're backstage. And so it was like, I'm backstage. Terry Crews is there dressed like a tropical Skittle. And they're like putting me in makeup, and they're still shooting stuff with me, like to get like B footage for whatever, that some of it made the show. And then like there's 2 people in front of me, and a producer comes up to me and goes, this is the funniest act that's ever been on the show. What you're about to do, like I watched your tape. I'm so fucking excited to see what you're going to do. This is so funny. And because I'm a comedian and I'm like, it's been months of preparation, and I've like been telling myself I'm going to lose. I'm going to get booed by 4,000 people. It's going to be okay. I go in my head, my dumb brain, I go, I think I'm going to win America's Got Talent tonight. I even like forgot how the show works. I'm like, they're just going to stop the show and be like, this guy wins. This producer said that to me because she knows they want me to win. They're going to make me win. Oh my God, I'm going to win. And so then the guy in front of me goes, and this in the show, he doesn't go in front of me, but in real life, there's just performers going right behind each other. The guy in front of me is like a singer from Hawaii, and he's got this beautiful voice, and he sings this song. Everybody's crying and shit, and
oh God.
And then they're like, "Can you sing another song?" They break precedent for him. He sings the second song, and whatever. Howie's weeping.
Oh, sweet.
And then they're like, "Who did you sing for tonight?" And he goes, "My father. I was supposed to be on the show a couple months ago, but
no,
my father died."
Oh
God. He literally goes, "Death took him too soon."
Son of a bitch.
And he walks off stage, and then Terry Crews is like, "You're on." I'm like, dude, what? And the weirdest thing about the edit of the show, now that if any of your listeners go watch it now, so that's what they say. The guy goes, "Death took him too soon," walks off stage. I walk on stage 20 seconds later.
Son of a bitch.
In the edit, they didn't edit it out because they changed everything that happens on stage. They made it cut to look how they need it to look, but they left in the fact that Death is getting booed as he walks out on stage before I'm even at the mic. Just walking out, you hear people going, "Boo."
Oh my God.
Boo. They're booing. The reason they're booing is because the guy that just went in real life said, "Death killed my father," after making them all cry with the song. And I walked out 10 seconds later. So in that moment, I just went like, oh yeah, they want me to lose really bad. They're like setting me up to have like a horrible time. And it was just a reminder, stay in the character, walk out. And then, what happened. It was really fun.
That's got to be the shittiest timing in the world.
It wasn't, dude. It was dude. It's intentional.
Oh my God.
They go like, put Death after the dude with the dead dad.
Oh, that is so terrible.
Yes, they 100% do that. That's what they want. Like as a show, they're like, and it's all reality TV. They're manipulating things so that they get the shots they need so they can take it to the editing booth and make it a show. And once it's in the editing booth, whatever happened does not matter. They're like, we have this footage. How can we make a 45-minute show right now that makes people laugh, that takes people on a journey, that ends them at this point, that makes them cheer, that makes them laugh, that makes them mad? And so you're a part. As soon as you agree to do a show like that, you're a part of that. And I have enough, I don't have a ton, but I have enough experience to know, like, it's not personal. It's like they're going to use you for what they need you for. And if you don't like that, don't do the show.
Yep.
That's why, like, even like comics who've had like a lot of success on that show, like Preacher Lawson or people like that, I'm like, it's such a risk to give your material to somebody else.
Yep.
And like, just be like, please don't fuck me. Please don't make me look as bad as you can make me because I was mean to somebody backstage or because you need it for that, like, so yeah, that's to say for the 35th time. That's why, like, as long as I was the character, it was a win, because the worse it was for Death, the better it was to have fun with the character after I was on the show.
Man, all right. So I know we're getting close to the hour mark. Your wife needs to get the vaccination, of course. One last thing I wanted to talk about.
Liz, the guy I'm on the call with said that he will let you get your vaccination.
Yes, she's got to get it done. She's got to get it done.
Yeah, she's like walking in the background. Like, okay, get ready. I'm fucking with you. It's fine. It's fine. You're fine.
No, you had there's another video segment on your YouTube channel that you were on MTV's Greatest Party Story Ever.
Yeah.
Now, let everybody know what that show was about, and just a little taste of what that story is, because I want them to go to your channel and watch the whole thing. So maybe just a little taste. A
little taste. My grandfather gave me a hallucinogen, and I tripped with my friends for an entire night and almost died. That's the taste.
And there's animations and everything to this.
Waiting by we said 11:15. I said 11:15.
All right, I'll wrap it up here, Eric.
Can I show my wife is just waiting at the door with her bag as I'm finishing the podcast?
Perfect.
Like, let's go.
All right, Eric, at the end of my show, I always let everybody plug their social media and everything. So in short amount of time and fashion, sir, go right ahead.
So erichellwig.com is the easiest way to find all my stuff. If you're on social media, it's always at Erick Hellwig. I spell my name Erick. Hell, like the place, wig, like a thing on your head. And then for podcast, I got a merch store, Patreon, all that stuff. Just go to erichellwig.com. My wife's over here, Liz Galalis. You can follow her at Liz Galalis on all social media. She is also very funny. And that Joel Mchale credit really belongs to her, not me. So if you really want to talk to somebody who worked on the Joel Mchale show and was seen on TV, you would go to at Liz Galalis on Instagram and Twitter. Thank you guys. And Brian, thanks for having me on the show, man. This was really, really fun. And we should do it again for sure.
Absolutely, guys. Everybody, I'm not going to give the outro. You know what to do at this point. If you've watched any episode, YouTube, Twitter, Facebook, we're all there. Search the spinoff for my name. You'll get it. Eric, thank you for joining me. I'm happy your wife's getting the vaccination. So yeah. I will let you guys get off to do that. And I hope to have you on again soon. Eric, thank you so much.
Thanks, brother.